Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And today we're talking about the sleeper hit of the summer 2022 season, Lycoris Recoil.
I mean, you say sleeper hit, and I mean, I guess it did start off kind of lower down there in the popularity charts. I guess more middling, but it's honestly the show I've seen the most discussion of by far. The memes have been inescapable. It's just
that's what happens with good
point.
originals.
As clearly evidenced by this one.
Yeah, it's the one of two A1 Pictures originals this season, the other being Engage Kiss, but Lycoris has just been blowing it out of the water in terms of both popularity and score, even to the point where I've seen it trending on Twitter several times every new episode on Saturday, I believe.
Well, yeah, that's because this absolutely clears Engage Kiss easily. Although I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler because if you recall during the seasonal cast, I was the contrarian opinion. I was the one who said, well, you and everyone else were like, oh, this is such a good show. It's so good. Everything about it's amazing. I love the characters and the animation. I'm here like, it's just, it exists. It didn't feel much.
Now we get to find out if you're gonna fulfill your redemption arc. But before we do that, just gotta remind the audience that if they enjoyed the podcast, to leave a like, head on down to the comments, let us know what you think of the show, and subscribe to the channel for more episodes of Castaway Anime and other videos.
ありがとうって言いたいだけなんだけど。魚！おお、魚か！チンアナゴ！
If you don't subscribe, I'll say, wait, I literally forgot her name. Hold on.
Chisato?
Chisa. I keep on wanting to say Chitose.
This is why we take notes. Alright, well, go on, Crunchy. Tell us, go expose yourself and lay yourself bare in front of the audience. What are your feelings on Lycoris Recoil 7 episodes in?
Alright, well, I must say, it's alright. Yeah, it's okay. It's fair enough, decent enough. It's watchable. And actually, this is shocking to me, right? Because I expected it to be the other way around. But I actually liked this more than the second core of JoJo Stone Ocean. So that was a plot twist if there ever was one.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Lycoris Recoil is better than JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
To be fair, I have only seen part 6.
Don't worry, you made a bunch of enemies just by saying that.
It's fine. I'll just take them all on in hand-to-hand combat.
the weakest JoJo's fan versus the strongest Lycoris Recoil enjoyer.
So what did you think of these episodes? Did your honeymoon phase end, or is it stronger than ever?
It's kind of a mix of both. It's not the masterpiece like I've seen it be hyped up as, but it's also a very solid watch. It's not bad in the slightest. As far compared to the rest of the season, in fact, let me pull up the seasonal chart just to do a quick comparison to the podcast. Comparing it just directly to, let's say, Call of the Night as both the most popular show of the season and also one of the shows we're covering on Castaway Anime, I'd say they're roughly equal in quality. I think I prefer Lycoris just a smidge higher. They're two shows doing different things, and I would say Call of the Night might have a cozier atmosphere, but I feel like Lycoris Recoil has my attention more.
I can definitely see that. I will say I disagree with that very much because you know me, the Yofukashi stan, But yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I guess I'll say that I can see specifically why it would grab someone's attention. Because something I grew to appreciate as the show went on is that it is such a specific melting pot of ideas where you're sort of balancing these sort of cute slice of life adventures with these action, like big action scenes. And it's sort of hard baked into the show's premise where the licorice, I had to struggle to not say licorice there, but the licorice are they both help with ordinary tasks, or at least Chisato and Takina do. They help with ordinary tasks, but they also, shoot bad guys and criminals and stuff. So it allows the show to very naturally delve into more slice of life, upbeat episodes, as well as the action stuff.
Yeah, not to derail the conversation immediately, but just going back to the whole comparing to other shows in the summer season thing. I'd say I've still only seen the first episode of Isekai Oji-san and Yurei Deko, and so it's up in the air whether or not I would enjoy them more. But I'd say they're both good shows, and Lycoris Recoil just still got my attention more over the both of them, just on how interesting the premise is.
Yeah, I have seen, I think, the first 4 episodes of Isekai Oji-san, and I actually quite vastly prefer it to Lycoris Recoil, but we can talk about that whenever we get to it.
Yeah, especially because you're going to be waiting a little bit longer since the episodes got delayed.
Yeah.
It just be like that sometimes.
So how are you wanting to cover this? Do you want to just do it episode by episode, or general thoughts, or what have you?
This one's a little more narratively driven, so we can go episode by episode. Lycoris Recoil was directed by Shingo Adachi, chief animation director of the SAO series, but he's making his directorial debut with this show. And it's also important to note that he wrote the script and screenplay. This is like pretty much his baby. And as far as the script, gold. I love it. I love seeing these characters just bounce off one another. I think that's the strongest aspect of Lycoris Recoil.
I would absolutely agree with that being the strongest aspect, and as of episode 2, it was actually the only aspect I was really connecting with, because episode 2 is this plot about the ultimate hacker named, I forgot his name because I'm just so good at names.
Robata?
Yeah,
are you thinking of Robata or a Walnut?
The one that isn't Walnut, so probably Robata.
Oh yeah, it's Robata.
All right. So it's about this hacker named Robata who hacks all the databases, and they're basically going up against him. And they've got Walnut here, who, if I recall correctly, I'm trying to remember exactly what Walnut's place in it all was, because obviously it ended up being just a ploy to fake his death. But
yeah, the thing with Walnut is that in the first episode we saw that she was in like a battle with Robata over like who the number 1 hacker is, and Robata tried to have her executed by blowing up her place of residence. So she had to enlist Licorico with her protection, and in doing so they go on this big escort mission trying to get her to a safe space away from these thugs. But in the end they get to her, and they shoot her ass, they gun her ass down. She's supposedly hiding in a squirrel mascot outfit, but in actuality, it was Mizuki, who is the one of the patrons at Licorico, and the real Kurumi, Walnut, was inside the suitcase the whole time, and they needed to fake her death to keep her working in the shadows under Licorico now.
I will say the scene where Walnut gets shot to death, very metal, definitely grabbed my attention. There's something viscerally enjoyable about seeing someone in a squirrel costume get just pelted with bullets, bleeding out. But my
All right, well,
main issue
you heard that. You heard that here first. Authorities never let Crunchy Bagels into any kind of ball game or any sport game with the mascot. He'll make his own fun.
Never let me anywhere close to a furry convention. Just imagine the
right,
carnage.
Oh God. Okay. Well, that was a little too specific. There's a precedence for that. I think that could actually.
Oh, there's a precedent for that. I did not know that.
Well, not necessarily for gunning down, but you know about the time that one furry con got gassed, right?
I didn't know that.
Really? It was
Yeah,
like
I didn't know that.
Infamous event. I don't think anyone died from it, but it did. A furry convention did get gassed at one point.
Well, I guess I'm being edgier than I thought. Okay. But
Yes.
Anyway. So I guess my main problem with this episode while I was watching it, I mean, I didn't really remember the hacker characters from the first episode, because I know you mentioned that there was... Well, hold on. Were they in the first episode?
I think they came in at the very end. I remember at the very end we see Kurumi's flat get blown up.
Okay, I'm now vaguely remembering this, but while I was watching the episode, I didn't really remember that. So my big question was, is this a side plot, or is this part of the main narrative? And
she ends up becoming part of the main
Yeah.
cast, so yeah, I'd say main narrative.
It does end up being plot relevant, but throughout most of it, I was just asking, like, okay, where is this going? And also, I mean, I wasn't hooked into the characters yet. I know you were instantly endeared to them, but I was one of the people who needed a bit of time with them. And so I was just mostly in this in this place of being like ever so slightly bored throughout most of it, with my attention occasionally being enraptured by stuff like, oh, person in a squirrel costume getting shot to death. That's interesting. Or like the plot twist at the end where it's like, oh, we were faking my death. But other than that, it was just an action scene, and I was really just wanting... Like, the best part of the episode was the conversation between Chisato and Takina at the beginning, where, if I recall correctly, Chisato's, like, trying to get Takina to eat this, like, big bento lunch, but then Takina at first refuses, but finally, you know, takes a bite, only for it to be revealed that, like, the train is immediately stopping and they need to get on the next one, and that's why Takina didn't get a big lunch. I thought that was pretty endearing, mostly based off of the animation of Chisato.
Yeah, have you now been indoctrinated into the Church of Chisakina?
I mean, I was always there. I want them to become a... Literally, that was my favorite... Like, when I was watching the first episode, that was the main thing keeping me there. Like, oh, Yuri...
I can work with this. Yeah, this
Exactly.
is a buddy cop with some Yuri baiting on the side about two child soldiers, one outgoing peacekeeper and one reserved no-nonsense killer, trying to get back on the straight and narrow.
Yep, a very accurate description of their characters. And I guess it is interesting that, like, the show very immediately contrasts them in not just the funny man, straight man way, but also in that one of them will resort to violence and the other one chooses not to resort to violence. So there you got two separate ways to differentiate.
It's literally the Parks and Recreation somebody will die period of fun period meme.
I don't know that meme or the show.
Damn, well the show is a masterpiece. But that's a story for another day. I just want to call attention to one of the biggest strengths of Chisato and Takina, their voices.
I do really like the voice acting, particularly Takina's, like, sort of soft, deadpan voiced. Really nice to listen to.
She's firm but cute without being annoyingly cutesy or high pitched or anything like that. Like typical overly anime cuteness, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
her
definitely get
voice
where you're
is
coming from that.
yeah, her voice is done by Shion Wakayama, whose best roles recently have been, or at least most popular roles going off of Mal, are Destiny from Takt Op Destiny and Shizuka from Mushoku Tensei, among others.
Trying to remember who she's. I should know this character.
Oh no, is this a crunchy fraud moment? One of your favorite anime in the
Hold
last
on,
few years? You can't remember who the
Shizuka.
character is?
Hold on, is this? I think know.
Wow,
Okay, no, that's a
fake
different
fan.
Shizuka. Wait, hold on, I must redeem myself.
Well,
Hold
while you're
on.
redeeming yourself, I'll tell him that Chisato definitely has the best, at least in my opinion, the best performance. She's this big bundle of joy, and she's energetic to the max with an incredibly bubbly and fun performance by Chika Anzai, whose roles include Chisa from Grand Blue and Reina from Sound Euphonium.
All right, so is it the character you were talking about? Is it Nanahoshi Shizuka?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I don't feel bad about forgetting that name because she was in one episode.
Okay. That was one of her most prominent roles, going by popularity on Mal. So yeah,
All right, well,
she
I
saw
remember at least liking her voice there. At least I think I remember it. She was mostly silent, though, if I recall.
Yeah, Chisato reminds me most of Akko from Little Witch Academia for how like super bubbly she is and how she's just like a joy to watch and interact with those around her. Even when some of them are like giving her sass, she'll give like an appropriate amount of sass back. And she's where she and Akko differ though is that Akko, whenever she takes charge of a situation, it's kind of leads to like bumbling shenanigans and misadventures, whereas Chisato is a lot more confident and skilled when she takes charge of a situation.
Chisato's bubbly side does get me occasionally, but it, at least to me, mostly relies on like a combination of how good the punchline is and how expressive the animation is. But
Which
the
is
part
to
of her
say,
character,
it's very expressive.
yeah, are quite a few good moments of Chisato being bubbly and energetic, but the part of her character I actually like more is like the more standoffish side. Specifically, this is shown in episode 3, against the sort of like leader of the licorice. I'm just gonna resort to calling him
commander?
licorice. Yeah, the commander, red hair, where Chisato is basically. I remember the one shot where she like goes like "Bah" towards the camera, just because she's like so standoffish against.
She's got a lot of spunk.
Yeah, it was a joy to watch.
One of my favorite Chisato moments that tells us so much without any words is near the beginning of episode 2, where her room is like strewn about with a bunch of Blu-rays of action movies, and she's sleeping on the couch in front of the TV that's still on, and in front it's a bag labeled her hand-picked recommendations, and that just tells, if all for talking, that tells you so much about her character without any dialogue, and that's the good shit.
I don't think I actually noticed the hand-picked recommendations.
It was written on the bag, unless
you're okay.
Whenever you watch it on, didn't subtitle it.
I think I remember it now. Yeah.
She's just a goof. She could be a goofball and a badass at the flip of a switch, and I think that's just neat.
Okay, I think Chisato is adequately written, and I do at least like her presence on screen. But episode 3, oddly enough, really endeared me to Takina in a way I did not expect. And the main scene that did it, oddly enough, is when all the people, including Chisato, are like gathering around, playing some games, chatting it up, and Chisato's like, "Come on, Takina, join in." And Takina's like, "No, not gonna do that. not don't want to do don't want none of that. Don't want to interact with human beings. And Chisato's like, no, come on. And Takina just retreats back to her room. Uh, and the implication has always been there that Takina is very reserved and obviously not personable because she speaks robotically. She is very straightforward and serious. She does not go with the like the social flow of things. So the implication has always been there, but I guess seeing it like that is just like this world of difference between like implying it and seeing it. And seeing it was enough to make me be like, I think I'm starting to get this character. I think I'm starting to like her even a little bit.
Yeah, episode 3 is the first time she's showing emotions that aren't just deadpan. She actually has feelings, and she shows them when she gets upset that she's no longer welcome at the DA and they seemingly won't accept her anymore because they already had a replacement lined up.
I am very glad that I got into her character in time for those scenes to really hit home, because I can just imagine how if they came just a little earlier, or maybe that scene wasn't there or something like that, I could be there deadpan, like just as deadpan as Takina usually is, being like, this is a character arc. I am acknowledging that she is getting slightly more expressive. So I'm glad that I was able to get on board the Takina train in time for that.
Chisato would love to get on board the Takina train. The amount of girl bossing between the two of them, almost like a game of one-upsmanship, is just adorable to watch.
I completely agree, and this is the first episode, I think, where like the Yuri baiting really started to become evident too, where Chisato literally picks up Takina and carries her around, like spinning in a circle next to the fountain. I remember you sending that to me as a GIF. Really pure serotonin piece of animation.
It makes the dopamine go crazy.
Okay, so this is a bit off topic, but am I the only one who absolutely hates Kurumi's character design?
Well, she's just like the typical, shut in, almost like a hikikomori kind of girl. She's got the long sleeves. I will say she definitely has the weakest character design of the gang at Lycorico.
I actively dislike it because it looks so, like, to me, I see that design and all I see is a bratty lolly, even though her character is nothing like that. It's just
She's a bit of a brat.
I mean, okay, she is a little
she's more
bit of a
mischievous
brat.
than bratty.
Yeah, but she's not like the annoying type of bratty lolly, if you get what I mean. But her character design set me up for the expectation that she would be insufferable, and I just can't get that image out of my head every time I see her.
So what you're saying is that you wish that she was brattier, so that way you could relate.
No,
you could.
I wish her design
project more onto her.
No, I wish her design was entirely different. Because I like her character. She is a fun side character, but her design just makes me think nothing but, oh, she's going to be annoying.
Yeah, I just see long sleeves on like a young childlike character, typically female in anime, and I'm just like, you can tell they wear their like hiki, I stay inside, I'm a computer geek thing on their sleeve. It's interesting to me that you find her design annoying here, and yet one of your favorite designs in Call of the Night was the long sleeve girl.
It's not the long
sleeve
sleeves that bother me necessarily. I don't know, just everything about her design screams to me, oh, this is going to be a really annoying character, even though she isn't like that, and I do actually appreciate her presence. Just the entire package.
Speaking of designs, we can both agree Chisato easily has the best one, right?
No. I like Takina's better, actually.
I mean, Takina's good too, but like that shade of red, that shade of blonde for her hair.
It definitely
everything.
is a very eye-catching design, I will say that, and it being eye-catching fits the character because she is so bombastic and energetic and outgoing. But I don't know, I just like Takina's more subtle, serious look. It, I always think of her as Mio from K-On, but with a death glare. And it's
None of these
kind of
characters
funny.
remind me of K-On! Characters. Maybe in actual, well, I say that, but Mizuki reminds me of the teacher from K-On!
I can definitely see where you got that from. But yeah,
And
I
that's
just
just
like
most
Takina's design a
spunky
lot.
female adult characters. I will shifting gears a little bit. I'll give the show its due diligence. It's just desserts. I'm not gonna suck and stick the whole time. There have been at least one instance that I caught of the dreaded CG crowd disease that is it spreads to even the best of us.
I remember the only episode I remember seeing it in is episode 2, where there's this
Same.
one shot of pedestrians going across the sidewalk, and I think there was another shot after that, but it was a lot more pulled back, so it was harder to notice. And since we're going back to episode 2 for a while, there is kind of this is a nitpick, right? But it still is something that kind of bothered me, where okay, so there's the scene where Chisato is approaching this dude who's firing at her, and it's basically to show how much of a badass she is. And at first, he's firing her, and she's swaying in such a way so that like she baits out the bullets, like baits him into shooting in a particular direction, and then immediately dodges and like makes sure basically she never gets hit. But then it goes to a side angle, and she starts aiming at the guy, and she is just watching, just walking towards him, not swaying visibly at all, just walking forward. So you think she'd be an easy shot, but the guy fires like 5 times and still misses her every single time, even though she is not moving. Like, she is only moving towards him. The shot is only getting easier with time, and he still just misses her repeatedly. I can buy into the first part because she's, like, baiting out bullets, but the second part just seems preposterous. Like, how is she not dead?
They do establish that her like big skill and the reason why she's such a top-rated Lycoris is that she's able to look at a person's like the way their clothes move or like their muscles move and see like how they're going to move, and in this case tell a bullet's trajectory by the way their body moves, and so she can anticipate and move out of the way in time. So it looks like she's kind of just like bullet timing the bullets. I will somewhat agree with you though that the first shot of her like swaying and like just it kind of looks like she's just moving the head, or just she knows where the bullets are going to be ahead of time, so she just moves in that direction, almost like she's seeing the future. That's a cool shot, but the side angle shot where it looks like the bullets should be hitting her but just aren't is a little bit awkward, even with the knowledge that she is just using her skill to see the bullets coming and just move out of the way. There's some parts in that shot that kind of look like the bullets are just bouncing off of her, or just like swerving out of the way.
I didn't notice that in particular, but it's like, to me, the idea that they all missed her is just kind of weird. When like, I forget the exact episode this happens in, but there's another shot of Chisato running towards a stream of bullets, but that doesn't break my suspension of disbelief, because there are 2 times where she has to like duck under a bullet, because at least in that case you get the sense that like she's still evading bullets, but in this shot she's just not moving, and it's like, well, okay, this is an easy shot, how is she not dead?
There was just one scene of poor direction, but I'd say overall the show's directed pretty good. My favorite shot, or at least one of my favorite shots thus far, was this one shot in episode 3 where Fuki and Chisato are both running on the treadmill next to each other, and they're positioned in the frame in such a way that whoever is talking will move forward ahead of the other in the frame. It's shot from their side, but Fuki's in the foreground and Chisato's in the background. So when Fuki's talking, she's like running forward and Chisato's kind of positioned behind her. But when Chisato talks, she overtakes Fuki and enters the frame. And I thought that was a pretty fun directing for a scene of two characters just talking while they're running on treadmills. It's being creative with the setting.
I definitely
like
liked
that could be a little more. That could have been just a
Yeah.
mundane flat shot. Like that shot wouldn't have been as cool if they were like if the cam was like situated in front of them and they were both facing the camera and just looking at each other while talking.
Yeah, I definitely agree that shot looks cool. My favorite, this is actually a series of shots, but where Takina is ducking under the briefcase. And it's like this overhead shot of her laying down and all of the bullets flying by, occasionally hitting the suitcase. Then she like after the firing is over, she does this turn in order to fire from behind the suitcase while still close enough that she can duck under cover
That's some
again.
fucking time crisis shit.
Yeah, it's a very enrapturing series of shots. The pose is just so dramatic and so interesting to me, and like the way they flow into each other was so smooth. For some reason, those shots are just perfect eye candy to me.
I would say episode 2 does have the best action scene thus far, which is a little sad to say, a bit of a backhanded compliment only because that means the action has peaked at episode 2, and while it has still been good throughout these episodes, I'm sad that we're halfway through and so far we've peaked in terms of action scenes. But it also lends to just how good the action scene in episode 2 is. There's not enough anime with well choreographed shootouts anymore, and here comes Rico with the Kino, like that shot of Takina lying beneath the suitcase, and the other badass moment where Chisato throws someone in front of a door being blown off its hinges by a grenade that she knocked out of his hands into the room. That was sick as fuck.
Episode 2's action scene is kind of metal, but there's always the disclaimer that I have to put basically every episode of the podcast at this point. I am not an action guy. However, these are watchable action scenes to me. And if I'm saying it, then that is high praise. They are very watchable action scenes. I will give it that. I was not bored for the most part, especially once I actually got into the characters.
Well, I think I could piece together why that is. This is doing what you were talking about that you wish JoJo Part 6 did, and have character moments in between the actiony moments.
Literally, yes.
Yeah, so instead of having to be nonstop mission, action, we get like an equal blend of, okay, we got one part action, but one part the character just like fucking around, you know? They're just hanging out, they're doing, you know, cute girl shit. There's this one really cool moment that kind of blends the two, where Takina tries to shoot a hairband at Chisato at the end of episode 2 to test how good her reflexes are, only for Chisato to dodge it and it hits Kurumi instead.
That is a very fun moment. And yeah, I really like that this show balances the more slice of lifey episodes with the action stuff. But I must say, right, every time I figured out that an episode was going to be more slice of life focused, I got excited. Every time I reckoned that it was going to be more plot focused, I was like, but can't they just shop for an episode? Can't you do that?
Go back to buying panties again?
Yeah, that was like a really fun episode. But now we have to the plot. Imagine shows having plots. This is disgusting. Not my anime.
While we're on the topic of comparing this to JoJo Part 6 and dunking on it for being not as good, another great aspect of Lycoris Recoil, at least more so in the earlier episodes, I've noticed that it's kind of fallen off a little bit as the show goes on, but that's just kind of standard for anime, sadly, is that the character acting and animation is just really great. This is an original, so you can't really levy, even if it was a moving manga type show, I suppose it wouldn't be entirely accurate to say it off rip, but even if this were based on a manga, this is the opposite of moving manga. This is an actual anime adaptation, if it were, again, based on a manga.
Yeah, the animation is very, very good, especially the character animation. To be fair, they are more simplistic character designs than JoJo's, but even still, they packed so much polish into these character animations. Like, the animation team is basically, I don't want to say carrying Chisato, but they are doing a hell of a lot for her.
I wouldn't say it's carrying her at all. I'd say it's helping to elevate her by going hand in hand with her performance. Like, the animation is bombastic and like crazy enough to match her crazy and bombastic her performances.
I do not disagree. So episode 3. So I'm normally against the 3-episode test in anime because I'm like, oh, but if it sucks after the first episode, why would it get better after the third? But oddly enough, Rico is one of those weird exceptions where,
well, you're also talking 3. Like the first episode was bad.
The first episode was not bad. It was very mediocre, at least the first time I saw it. Maybe that would change now that I'm a little more hooked into the characters. But my first time through, I was definitely spacing out a little bit. But it still wasn't bad. Like, it was the type of show I could have seen myself giving a second chance. Although I think without this podcast, I probably would have dropped it after episode 2, not gonna lie. But episode 3 is where I, oddly enough, began to have a good time. And it's because it's the first time that the show is like... Well, first of all, there was the part with Takina that made me instantly love her character. Well, maybe not love, but very much like. And then after that, there's a bunch of basically characters' ideologies clashing, where Chisato is saying like, hey, it's okay to act on your own. It's okay to go against orders. I do it all the time. They keep me around because they need me, even if they hate me. And Chisato is basically in this episode representing the idea of being your own person, whereas the Lycoris are supposed to just absent-mindedly follow orders. Where and especially, like, specifically, one of the ways in which Chisato is a serial rule breaker is that Lycoris are supposed to kill the people, all the bad guys. You're supposed to shoot them dead. But Chisato isn't all about that. She doesn't want to have a guilty conscience, and so she does not kill them. And that is specifically against orders. And so Chisato is sympathetic to Takina disobeying orders in the first episode because she's like, hey, you were being your own woman.
It's the way that she says it specifically that's so interesting. Like, she's like, I'd feel bad robbing anyone of their time, like specifically their time on Earth, so I just won't. And and like but even when she goes, and I get like super pissed when bad guys try to take my time, so that's why I give them the old hurt. I put the hurt on them.
I really liked that. Yeah,
she's
I really
basically
liked that
anime
explanation.
Batman.
And then there's also ideology happening on Takina's side, where Takina is, I'm pretty sure at this point, still mostly convinced that she did the right thing in that scene. And she also, because they're all orphans, she basically sees the headquarters here as a sort of home that was taken away from her. So
it's the only home she's ever known.
Mm-hmm. And so she's in this position of like really wanting to live here, but at the same time, she isn't able to because, and here's another, yet another implication that the licorice sort of system might not always be, it might be a little corrupt, which is where it's basically shown that like they are purposefully, okay, so there was a hacking, right? And so that isn't supposed to happen. It's supposed to have really good security. And they're basically shifting as much blame onto Takina as possible so that people don't question how this hacking was allowed to happen in the first place. Basically, making Takina a scapegoat of sorts. And when Takina finds out about that, she is understandably pissed. So a bunch of stuff going on with like ideology and is this organization really trustworthy? It's almost a little heady, and it's like, oh, this is getting me thinking. This is getting the cogs whirring in my brain. This is very interesting.
Yeah, the big theme of Lycorico is freedom versus security. It's here we have the Lycoris, whose main goal is they're the thought police, basically. You're trying to, they're pre-crime. You're trying to like even commit a crime, like even if you don't actually commit it, they just catch you in the act of about to commit it. They kill you on site, no trial, no judge, jury, and executioner. Fuck you. And here we got Chisato's like, hey, maybe we like don't do that, because you know these people who do bad things, maybe some of them don't have a choice. Maybe like it's not our place to, you know, take their time on Earth away from them. And so we have Chisato here going against the Lycoris, and so she walked away from the DA, and she's going against their code, going against their rules, man, and she's out there living her best life and trying to convince Takina to do the same. And Takina at first is like, oh no, like the orders are absolute. We're made to follow orders. That's why the peace has been kept for so long, is because we've been out there doing the killing.
This does lead pretty elegantly into one of my main fears about the future of this show, which is where will they take the stirring pot? Because you say that's one of the themes, and I do agree, but I'm wondering like how in depth are they going to really get with that whole idea? Like, because we're already halfway through, and it's mostly just, at least from my perspective, stirring the pot, stirring the pot, stirring the pot. And I'm wondering, like, will the conclusion to this eventually say something?
I'd imagine so. I mean, this is like, we're in the middle of Act 2, and Act 3 is like very close on the horizon. For us, at least. I know by the time this comes out, the show will have probably already done airing. I think episode 11 is out at the time of this recording.
Yeah, episode 11.
And of this 13-episode show. And I've heard that there have been some wild developments. So
that is reassuring to hear that there have been some developments. Because I forgot my line of thought.
I think there's gonna be some more Kino moments on the horizon, like by the end of episode 3, where Takina gets revenge on Fuki when she punched her in the face for disobeying an order, for running up behind her and decking her, giving a big one right across her face.
That moment is Kino, yeah.
And then she smiles at the end of the episode. Like, I think that's the first time we see her smile.
I'm trying to remember. I think it is, because my final note for episode 3 is literally all caps, Takina smiled!
That's also my note. It wasn't in all cap, it just says Takina smiles. But you know, it was an important note to put down, because Chisato will throw her life away to protect Takina's smile. Headcanon and probably actual canon.
Probably. I will say, so far, I am more hooked into the characters of Lycorico than the plot. Because the plot so far is basically, alright, so there's this hacker dude, and then eventually he teams up with, like, this green-haired guy, and
with the Tumblr sexy man.
And they're against the Rico, and Takina and Chisato need to fight against them. And then there's all this like thematic backdrop of, like you said, security versus freedom. But it's so far been mostly a backdrop. Obviously, it is a little bit of it being baked into the characters, with Chisato obviously valuing freedom and Takina disobeying orders. But no, so far it's just about this hacker dude and the, like you said, Tumblr sexy man.
He just gives off that energy.
And I guess there's also the stuff being set up of Chisato's backstory, where I think this is like the final episode we watch, where it's revealed that like she was the one who took on the terrorists that destroyed the tower, and back then she is implied to be quite the ruthless killer. So
Yeah,
I guess it's and also she has an artificial heart for some reason. I'm sure that's relevant to the whole mystery behind her character. So two plot threads primarily, which is Chisato's backstory and Tumblr sexy man, neither of which have to do with the freedom versus security theme. And
well, the Majima might actually, because like we don't know why he's doing it or like his backstory per se. I'm sure we'll figure that out later, but his goal right now is to challenge the Licorice, because he's like, man, y'all, this Licorice stuff's a bunch of bullshit. Y'all are just like keep pretending that there's peace, but like, and you're only pretending because you're just sweeping everything under the rug, when in reality shit's fucked, but you're just trying to keep the peace, keep the people under blissful ignorance. Well, I'm gonna drag y'all into the light and show you how like fucked shit really is.
That depends, because he is obviously fighting for a cause. He is a terrorist. Terrorists fight for a cause. And he is obviously fighting against the Licorice and, trying to say, like, this is wrong. But it depends specifically on, like, what his problem with the Licorice is, and if the show is going to make him out to be more than just a terrorist who
I
has
have
a
no
bone
doubt
to
that
pick.
they're gonna flesh him out some more.
I have a little bit of doubt. I can't imagine them, like, it's difficult to imagine them not doing it, but I just have that worry.
Oh, ye of little faith.
What can I say? I've been burned too many times.
I don't think they're gonna go all Rusty Bisco on us. I think we're gonna be safe this time.
Well, we'll see when the next Lycoris Recoil podcast happens.
In like a month. So moving into episode 4, which is just the peak of just fiction in general. We get this really cute scene of Fuki and Chisato. They don't realize it, but they're playing an online VR shooter against each other, and they just like are pissed off just by their names. And they set their online tags to be their names for some reason.
That is a very funny scene. A line that made me laugh, and I don't think it was supposed to make me laugh, is when Takina gets given the VR headset. She's like, this is realistic, and the world is just a bunch of abstract triangles. Like, what kind of reality are you living in where that's realistic?
I think she was referring to like the movement of like the gun.
I assumed that was what she was talking about, but the combination of that line with the abstract rectangles just I couldn't stop myself from laughing.
And while Takina's playing that game, Chisato catches an upskirt of her, and then later asserts dominance over her girlfriend by lifting her skirt and seeing that she wears boxers.
And Takina's basically like, oh, well, this is the uniform that I got recommended to wear by... I'm so good at names, but the one dude,
Maki.
the only... what's his name?
Maki.
Yeah,
Come on, Crunchy. The only confirmed gay character in the show, and you couldn't remember? The only black character in, like, the past 10 years of anime?
In my defense, I also forgot... I forgot her name again. Chisato.
Chisato?
In
Dude.
fairness, I forgot her
Bruh.
name again.
This is a bruh moment.
You underestimate how comically horrible I am at remembering names.
But like the main character, dude.
I thought I had them down, and then I didn't.
I can't believe it. Crunchy Bagels thinks black people are forgettable. Black gay people are not worth remembering.
Don't give this to Twitter. You know what they'll do with it. They'll destroy us.
Well, Chisato's taking Takina shopping for panties and normal clothes to make her be less like a child soldier and more like a real girl, a real doll.
There is actually one line right before that where Chisato is basically like, hey, you can't wear the designated uniform. You gotta go out in your casual wear. And Takina just turns to Maki like, do you have any designated plain clothes?
Dude, the writing in the show is good.
It is. I do love those little quips of dialogue. Although, there is
It's
one piece of
soul.
dialogue that, to me, is just preposterous. Where they're looking at a seahorse, and the quote, I think it's Takina saying, apparently this is a fish. With the implication of the line being they haven't seen a seahorse yet, somehow. Do Japanese
guess
people
they are
just
pretty
not
sheltered.
know what seahorses are?
Well, Takina is a child soldier, so maybe she got sheltered from things that were deemed unnecessary.
I mean, maybe. It just seems a little weird.
Well, to be fair, seahorses are kind of weird-looking fish.
I mean, they're weird-looking fish, but that's why everyone knows them. You learn what they are when you're 5.
Yeah, but you don't know that the male ones get pregnant until later.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular fun fact.
It's just a little bit of a weird piece of dialogue. It is, in the end, a nitpick, but still, it kind of got me raising an eyebrow. This director loves outfits so much.
Oh,
The
dude,
OP.
the costume design in the show goes fucking crazy. That one montage in the OP that lasts like 5 seconds of Chisato and Takina just swapping outfits. And all of them are banger.
Yeah, they are all very attractive outfits. I do love them. And later in episode 7, when Chisato dons like this really fancy
When she
schmancy dress,
fucking
and
Carmen
the
San Diego
hairstyle.
looking ass.
Dude, she looks so pretty in that thing.
Yeah,
And then in that scene, another detail I like. I know this is like kind of unorganized and jumping ahead, but Kurumi is still in her hoodie with the oversized sleeves when everyone else is all decked out in fancy wear.
They're all dressed to the nines, and she's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Judge me on my appearance? My ID clearly says I'm 30.
Yeah.
Jumping back to episode 4, Takina, not wanting to be outdone by her partner, reestablishes her dominance in the relationship by demanding Chisato show her panties.
Surprisingly enough, we do not actually see the panties ourselves, and that's something I've noticed pretty consistently about the show, which is
The
that
fan service in the show is kept to a like shocking minimum.
it's definitely there because I mean, staging a shot in a changing room, like, okay, you can choose not to do that, but it seems like the director's
Well, we
goal-
never see we never see them in like states of undress. Like the few times we do, it's like played for laughs. We see Kurumi in a bathtub, and she gets forcefully dragged out of it by Mizuki being like, "You got to get back to work," and she's like, she comes out of the tub naked, just covering herself up with the computer, but her reaction is so nonchalant and unfazed that she's just like, yeah, it's played for laughs as opposed to titillation.
Yeah. It seems like at every point the director was saying, I want the girls to be cute, and I want to occasionally show them in a changing room, for example, but I want it to be as tasteful and as brief as possible.
And he
and
did a
they
good
just
job, man. I can
continuously
stare at
asking
I can
himself-
stare at the Chisatami for hours.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you sent me to that, or sent me that in the group chat.
That's the tomboy energy right there.
And on the subject of the director trying to make it like just tasteful enough, like present but tasteful, this is gonna sound slightly cynical, but this definitely feels like a show that was basically crafted in at least multiple senses to be popular. And I know, once again, it sounds cynical, but one of my favorite shows, Spy Family, Tatsuya Endo admitted that the entire manga was created to pop off his career and to be as massively appealing as possible. So it's not, that doesn't make you averse to creating a popular or like creating a good show. But like
sometimes you gotta make the crowd pleasers, the 4-quadrant appeal.
And part of the reason why is because, I mean, this is admittedly a little bit of an assumption, but I imagine that making an anime original is at least a tad more difficult and definitely a lot more of a risk for an anime studio to do than an adaptation of a manga or a light novel. And so you want to guarantee that that stuff will pop off, and it's clearly working for Lycoris Recoil. It has, obviously 2 cute girls as the protagonists, but to be fair, that's like 90%
Hardcore
of
yuri
all
baiting
anime
them as well.
Hardcore yuri baiting. You've got the action, so that people who get bored by slice of life shows will only be bored sometimes. But then you've also got the slice of life stuff, so that you can have the girls just being cute and going to places in different outfits. But it's also, because this goes back to my point about it being an interesting stirring pot. Because what I like about, what I like in anime is particularity, where this is an author's particular vision. And even though it is mass appealing in a lot of ways, and definitely comes off as intended to be that way, they're combined in such a way that it's like, it feels like a particular artist's vision. It doesn't feel just stone cold calculated generic garbage like, oh, every isekai in existence.
Yeah, that's the difference between soul versus soulless. You see it on
show
display
definitely
here.
has soul, yeah. And then we transition from they're in the aquarium, and we transition from a slice of life scene into Chisato talking about how this one guy did a lot for her in the past, and because of that, she wears this pendant, and it's like the same one that he's wearing. And she wants to meet him again someday, even though it has been 10 years. And my first response, comically enough, was like, wait, no, please don't tell me she has a crush on him. And then I think it through a little bit more in my head, and I'm like, there's no way. Yeah, I was just overreacting. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, they can still get together. The yuri baiting can still exist. And it does get her down a little bit, and I love how...
If they don't follow through on it, then I'm giving the show the 1 out of 10 it deserves.
I mean, hey, if they do follow through on the yuri baiting and Takina and Chisato do kiss, I will give it a 7 out of 10 on principle alone. I told you this literally yesterday, and I still maintain that if they, even if the finale ended up being Rust Eater Bisco, tier garbage, I would still give it a 7 out of 10 if they kissed in the end. But anyway,
well,
Chisato...
listen, man, they've already seen each other in their underwear, so they've already skipped a few bases.
There are already a few rungs on that ladder of teenage romance, or I guess Chisato isn't a teenager, is she? Is she? I actually don't know her age.
I'm pretty sure they're roughly the same age.
For some reason, I always think of Chisato as being like 20 or something.
Well, you gotta remember, anime ages are very much in flux.
True. Yeah, I don't actually know their age. That is odd.
I'm pretty... Neither of them can be older than 18.
Well, anyway, after that talk, Chisato is kind of down in the dumps. She's kind of feeling down. So Takina, in the most serotonin inducing scene of the entire show, probably rushes up to the aquarium and pretends to be a fish, and then Chisato joins in pretending to be that. Yeah, I remember you showing
and
me
she
that
does
clip.
it just to make her girlfriend feel better.
And then
And it's the most
Chisato
precious
joins
fucking
in.
thing.
Joins in as like one of those eels that was standing up in the sand, and all the bystanders are like chuckling, but also seem to be like appreciating it unironically.
They were putting on a good show. Speaking of good shows, we find out in that scene that Chisato is part of the Allen Institute, or at least was an Allen child, where I'm pretty sure they were more established in the first episode, and I kind of half forgot what they do. I'm pretty sure I know that it's a front company, and in reality they like set people up for missions to do stuff for the world or whatever. And Chisato's thing is it's up in the air what her quote mission is. I think it was I think it's something to do with the licorice, but they also say stuff like that's for Chisato's mission is for her to decide. But I can't tell if they mean it by like she has a choice of whether she wants to do it or not, or if she gets like choose her own path in life or something.
Yeah, the way I interpreted it was that it's like more symbolic of a personal mission, but I'm also like that has yet to be explained, so it could be either one. For now, it is a mystery box.
All I know is that Chisato is... I wrote in my notes when I saw the owl necklace, I was like, God damn, Chisato's trying to get to the owl house? She trying to get that extended season 3? I do find it rather strange that these characters talk about the licorice, these secret child soldier spies, and killing people in public, and no one bats an eye.
I did think about that.
They're overly comfortable with talking about it in public places.
Chisato's literally like, oh yeah, basically saying it, in her normal talking voice. Yeah, we're not... When we're in our normal clothes, we aren't licorice anymore. Oh, hey, bystanders. Yeah, we're supposed to be undercover, but I'm just gonna say this at a normal volume.
Yeah, am I being loud and clear enough for you? We're not on duty as child soldiers the licorice right now. We are normal teenage girls. Do not cast suspicion upon us.
That it almost feels the way you explained it right there is like she's going through the steps of a crime, being like, I definitely didn't steal the money from the safe before locking it back. I'm definitely not a child soldier. The licorice, those things everywhere, the secret police. I'm definitely not one of those.
And then the crowd's like, wait, it's secret police, and they get black bagged.
But yeah, it is at the end of episode 4 where there is a train that gets shot at that is thankfully empty, and then some stuff goes down with some licorice, and there's like an explosion that comes out of the tunnel which has been blocked off, and Takina wants to join in the fray and be like, yo, I'm gonna stop some bad guys, but then Chisato's like, hey, it's our day off, yelling it to the crowd like, hey, it's our day off, and so Takina in the end decides not to get involved. And this is our introduction to who you have dubbed the Tumblr sexy man.
Majima is an interesting character. I as much as I will slap him with the Tumblr sexy man label and shudder at the thought of him unironically probably being one by the the Fujos who like meme them into existence. he is an interesting villain to follow. I have a soft spot for unhinged psychopath villains.
There is the one shot of I think it's in episode 6 where he's like basically saying like it's after he's said that like he's going to kill the other hacker guy. And then eventually he finds like this thing. I think it's after, like directly after he finds this like interesting bit of evidence that fuck, what was his name? Majima like is finally actually impressed with what he's doing, and like he gives this very specific, or maybe it was after the action scene. I think it might have been after the action scene. So yeah, I changed the actual time of the event happening like 3 times at this point, but if you're still following me, after he gets bested by Chisato, he's talking to the hacker, and he makes this very particular face where like one of his eyes is much more closed than the other one, and he looks completely psychotic, and he's like, "You did an impressive job back there."
Yeah, and then the episode ends with Chisato getting curious about Takeda's boxers when she was like, "Oh, but they're comfortable and like very breathable, easy to move around," and she's like, "Is that so?" And she like, this is one of the big meme scenes that I saw floating around the episode, talk around the show right before it picked up, where she, the first scene, of course, where she like lifted up her skirt to see her boxers, and then the second scene where she tries the boxers on herself and then gets caught in 4K by Mizuki and gets bullied in front of the entire cafe for it, and makes Takina laugh for the first time.
Literally,
also
God,
precious.
I love the detail of Karumi literally taking a fan and putting it under her skirt and blowing it up so that the boxers are revealed. It's so incredible,
it's a
and
very
so characterizing for Karumi.
Then we move on to episode 5, and the gang are tasked with bodyguarding what can only be described as anime Stephen Hawking.
Yep, accurate. This is where
It-
I stopped having as many notes for the episodes for whatever reason. Either I got really entranced with actually watching them, or I just started running out of things to say. I honestly don't know which one it is. But one of my notes for this episode is that I absolutely love the eye catches in this show. They are all a treat to look at.
Oh yeah, I fucking adore them. I think my favorite one had to be the one in episode 7 where they're dressed out in rock and roll attire.
I absolutely
Goddamn.
adored that one. Yeah. Like I said, the outfits in this show be going wild. They're even doing them for the eye catches. But this is the episode where it's revealed that Chisato has an artificial heart which doesn't beat, which leads to Takina literally trying to touch her boob in public to be like, "Is it really true that it doesn't beat?" And Chisato's like, "Get your hand away from me, we're in public."
Well, but if they were behind closed doors, it'd be different. Like when at the end of that episode, she gets to lay her head on Chisato's Chisatos. And it is a very cute scene.
Yeah.
Everything between them is just cute.
This is why they need to make it a thing. They can't just have that in the show and not have them kiss at the end.
Oh, they gotta be kissing by the end.
Absolutely have to be. But anyway, it turns out that the dude in the wheelchair, who he has this whole tragic backstory of like, "Oh, these people killed my family, and I had to escape to the US, but I'm coming back to Japan just to, tour the country because that's what my family wanted to do." And, it's a very heartbreaking tale, and Chisato falls for it, and she's like, "Oh, no, that's so sad. Here, I'm going to take you around Japan, and me and Takina are going to be your bodyguards, and we're going to just, keep you cozy, keep you safe, because you're, like, this think it's explained that he's like within this corporation that a lot of people have it out for. They never specified the corporation, which, if Chisato was a little more curious, might have given her a bit of, a bit of a lead to the fact that he is a fake. He is actually a drug addict from a hospital who cannot move, and the voice is coming through a computer, which is actually just being hacked. So, it sucks to be Chisato there.
Yeah. There was a line in episode 5 that really lent to its theming, where the police officers, the detectives who frequent the cafe, were exploring the crime scene of the train crash, and then found a stray bullet in the debris, and were like, this train didn't derail itself. There was a shooting, and it was being covered up by someone, and it's implied that the detective knows that there's like the government is covering up this shit. But then they see Chisato and Takina palling around in town with the old man being a tour guide, living their best life. And the detective says, if kids like that can live at ease, it doesn't matter who's covering what up. And I'm just going, That's the freedom versus security thing.
Yeah. And it was reassuring to see that brought up again and be like, okay, they are still, keeping this in the stirring pot, keeping this relevant. Maybe we're gonna get back to this. It is an interesting theme. And this is another one of the big action scenes of the show where Mizuki, she ends up getting basically captured by the guy, but she manages to put a tracking device on his person, and so even though she's like tied up and then just thrown in a place, I forget what she was thrown inside, but basically a place where she can't move and can't be seen by anyone, and he runs off with the tracking device on him. Then there's this amazingly well staged shootout between Takina and him on this roof with a bunch of air conditioners, and they're using the air conditioners as cover. But he was actually using his coat as a fake because I guess he saw the tracking device. And so he was keeping the tracking device on the coat and using it as a fake in order to bait Takina out into going in this particular direction, which really good action choreography and staging, and a bit of strategy on the villain's part, and that rush of being like, oh, we got duped.
I will say I found it very strange that he is willing to kill a teen girl but not a grown woman. Why didn't he kill Mizuki when he had the chance? Why did he just tie her up and put her in a closet?
I'm trying to think that through in my head. I guess it's because he already had Mizuki in a place where like she couldn't fight back in any aside from just punching
But if he's an assassin and his mission was to kill the man and anyone standing in his way. So
I guess it was just a whim sort of thing. That doesn't really break my suspension of disbelief too much because I can buy into it, but it does seem like a fair thing to point out. And I guess you could also consider it plot armor for Mizuki.
Yeah, the assassin killed that old man's family, and he's coming back to finish the job, but it turns out that the old man was actually a drug-addicted hospital patient, planted to be a fake dude, who we see was controlled by, I believe, Mr. Yoshi.
I didn't actually catch who was controlling him.
I'm pretty sure we don't see his face, but it sounds and I think his hand is the same as Mr. Yoshi.
All right. I will believe you on that.
because it's already been implied that from the earlier episodes that the Allen Institute is kind of, funky, doing some funky stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it's episode 2 where he literally says like something about how something was popping up at work and there was this squirrel that just escaped his grasp. Basically, almost mockingly talking about how he was involved with the whole walnut thing. Just blatantly to the people who are on Walnut's side. So yeah, he's definitely into some funky stuff.
And then the episode ends with Majima epically owning a Lycoris who is tailing a crook by fucking just ramming her at full speed with a car, and then she gets gatted in the street like a dog.
That was
raw.
Yeah, that was metal.
That was Monday Night Raw.
So then we go on to episode 6.
And Takina, being the sly dog that she is, takes the ongoing Lycoris assaults as an excuse to sleep over at her girlfriend's place. Sure, bud, because you gotta, stay safe.
And so they end up staying together, and I absolutely love the scene where, like, Takina divvies out all the chores evenly, and Chisato's like, no, that's boring. And so Takina's like, oh, okay, we could play rock, paper, scissors for it. Because she just assumes, like, oh, it's gonna be, like, statistically speaking, 50-50. But no, Chisato ends up getting no chores and dumping them all onto Takina, and we just get this glorious face of horror from Takina. The most emotion she has ever shown is this pure horror at seeing how many chores she has to do. As Chisato just, at least in her eyes, defied all odds. But it is revealed that she was looking at the muscles in Takina's arm, and that it all relied on the use rock first strategy, where if she uses rock first, then Chisato can guess her strategy from that point forward using the muscles in her arms. Doesn't seem like something that would ever work in real life, but I'm willing to just accept it.
She can bullet time AK-47s. I think she can cheat at rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. It's just the kind of thing where it's like, this is stupid, but I'm willing to accept it as a thing in this show.
There was this one great scene where the hacker Robata tries to enlist help from his fellow hackers online, and the one he finds is like, oh yeah, finally someone who's good at hacking who'll help me, who's down for the cause. And it turns out it's just this basement dwelling pedo who gets immediately busted by the DA and police when he tries to hack into the DA. It's like just we got a level 3 hack coming in, so it's like, let the police take care of it. It gets fucking just served.
Yeah, it is kind of immediately entertaining how Robata because he's the one who approached Majima. Robata approached Majima being like, hey, I can help you. And then Majima just completely is like, okay, you gotta get this in 3 days or else I will literally kill you. Give results now or you are dead. And Robata's like freaking out, like, oh, I need to do this. Like it's kind of an entertaining dynamic from these two villains.
Yeah, and then he's trying to go after Chisato, and Chisato's flat is she's got like a little hidey hole underneath an apartment as a safe house. She says this one line where she mentions that I can't remember if she was like she had to fend off or she had to get help from Lilybell, which she describes as a boy version of the Lycoris. I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was, it was kind of a funny moment for me because one of my notes earlier on in the show was, why are all the Lycoris women? Like, not that there's a problem with that, but I'm just sort of noticing that, like, every time they show
not that there's a problem with that, but there's a massive fucking problem with it.
It was a huge question mark, and like it was because at the very beginning of the show, back when like before they had shown this many like ordinary licorice that immediately get killed off. Before that, I was like, okay, so all the main characters are going to be cute girls because A, Yuri, and B, cute girls. Okay, easy explanation. Anime do this all the time. But then it kept on going. And I was like, okay, so there's like these 5 ordinary licorice in the same scene, and they're all women. And all the main characters are also women. Why? And I was coming with like this fan theory in my head, like maybe it's like the one gray-haired girl from New Game who's like their boss, where she only hires women in the company because she likes cute girls, which is a hilarious way to play that off, by the way. And I was like, oh, maybe red hair just really likes women. Maybe she's a lesbian too. Maybe it's Yuri from top to bottom.
I mean, it's a sausage list festival there, so
yeah. But no, there is a boy version of licorice. It is called Lilybell.
I wonder if we'll get to see them. I hope we do. You can't just establish that there is another child soldier organization and then not do anything with that.
I am definitely a little interested to see
we got to see the yaoi equivalent of Chisato and Takina.
I mean, hey, it'll make the Fujos happy.
We find out that Kurumi was the one who hacked the DA on the day of the arms deal that got Takina kicked out of the DA.
And that pisses off Mizuki far more than it does Takina, actually. Takina, if I recall, just doesn't care. She's like, oh, it's fine. As long as you help us out right now, it's fine.
And then Chisato gets ambushed by Majima, and they have the big fight. Majima's kind of kicking her ass at first, but then the backup, the cavalry arrives, and then they have a big old fight. There's this one really fucking cool moment where Majima gets blasted in the face so hard by the non-lethal rounds that he bleeds from the forehead, and then he spits out a bunch of blood into Chisato's eyes, blinding her, allows him to wail on her.
Yeah, it was a really interesting bit of, I guess you could call that strategy, even if it was sort of unplanned and off the cuff. It's more it keeps things varied and makes sure that the action scenes don't end up feeling the same. I thought it was pretty well staged as well. There's some good choreography. And it gets pretty high octane near the end where they're trying to outrun this missile that's about to be shot at them in a car.
And they're able to dodge it just in time. And they're taking to get all patched up. And there's this the last scene where Takina's like, all right, if I win rock, paper, scissors, I'm not living with you anymore. And she's like, all right, bring it on, bitch. And then Takina outwits her by not letting her do the rock comes first strat, beats her in rock, paper, scissors, and then does the cutest fucking celebratory little yes, all right dance.
That. It's just yes, 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 yes. It's so... I keep on saying this, but pure serotonin. There is a scene I want to get back to, because it was kind of interesting how Majima gets... Okay, alright, so there's an explosion right next to him. It sends him flying into the water, and he is like, at this point, barely even conscious, and you think he's gonna drown. And it's like obviously they weren't going to kill him off, but like the explosion happened so close to him. How is he alive?
I think that's just some anime shenanigans.
It's just, yeah, it's an anime thing. It's not actually a serious issue, but it's something that I couldn't help but notice. Like, come on, man, you flew so hard into the water. You went so far. Like they say, if you hit the water really fast, it's not going to break your fall. It's just going to feel like concrete. I'm sure you were at the point where it would start feeling like concrete, considering how far and fast you flew. But whatever.
It'd just be like that sometimes.
It's an anime thing. But
so
anyway.
Now we move on to the last episode of the batch, episode 7. And it opens with yet another fucking banger where the girls are trying to give their artist rendition of Majima, and they're both just equally bad. Takina's is just like regular awful, and Chisato just looks like a manga.
Well, at least Chisato got the hair color correct. Takina's just looks like an ordinary dude. And then there's what Fuki, if I'm remembering that name correctly, in the background with this super realistic portrait, but the problem is she wasn't even there. And she's just like, drawing skills should be a prerequisite for being a licorice.
I think that was her partner.
Oh yeah, that was her partner, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I like the scene where Chisato and Majima are taking mutual interest in each other. Like, man, who are you?
It's one of those scenes that sort of establishes just how big of a deal Majima is, being set up as Chisato's rival specifically, where it's revealed that Majima was actually one of the people who was doing the terrorist attack on the tower all those years ago. And he was going up against Chisato back then. But Chisato was not the same girl she is now. She was way more ruthless and violent. And he's like, so this was a fated encounter, wasn't it? And he's getting all pumped to take her on. It's a very effective scene at like immediately establishing the type of conflict we're in for.
Yeah, it's exciting to see, or to at least right now imagine what it's gonna be like when they come face to face again and have another big fight. Hopefully this time there's gonna be more of an ideological clash than just a fist clash.
I am definitely hoping for that.
Yeah, so then we got Maki going to go meet someone at the bar to talk about Chisato, and Chisato accidentally sneaks a peek at his phone and picks up that that's what's going down, and worried that the cafe might close as a result of this. She convinces the gang to go track him down, see what exactly he's meeting at the bar for. And I think that scene of them talking and conversing about what could happen to the cafe or what Maki could be up to is like the best moment of just characters bouncing off each other in the show thus far.
I was definitely very solid. They finally brought back the thing of Mizuki being single and trying to like her primary concern is, if the cafe gets shut down, I won't have anywhere to meet boys anymore. And then at the end of the episode, she's like dressed in this like super fancy schmancy dress. Like, okay, time to go back to this like the super pricey place we were at before. And then Kurumi's like, oh, actually, I canceled our card and you can't go there anymore.
And she's like, what the
devastated.
fuck?
Absolute devastation. I mean, hey, that's what you deserve for being the only straight woman in this show.
Well,
imagine.
I don't know.
It's not confirmed.
Kurumi's still up in the air.
Fair, but my headcanon is that they're all lesbians, all of them. Just give me my dream show, Neon. Let me have this. Just let me have this.
They do confirm that Mika's gay.
Mika?
In a pretty... Yeah.
Mika. Who is Mika?
Was that not... What? Oh, wait. Oh, my bad. I mistyped his name in the last couple notes for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Maki.
Maki, yeah. It is definitely confirmed.
I like how Kurumi's like... I like how they imply it, too, at first. I like how Kurumi is... Well, don't you think... it's possible that he could be meeting a woman at the bar, and both Chisato and Mizuki are like, oh no, that's not even a possibility.
And they called it out from a mile away.
Yeah, and then they see Mr. Yoshi's the one who's meeting with him, and then they're like, oh my god, it was a date the whole time. And then Kurumi's like, oh, he gay. Good for him.
And then while they're there, they're discussing talking about Chisato a little bit and about how I always forget his name, but I call him in my notes the blonde guy. The blonde guy,
Mr. Yoshi.
Mr. Yoshi. Oh, I should be able to remember that because Yoshi from Mario. Okay, so anyway, Mr. Yoshi is talking about how he was the one who gave Chisato the artificial heart, and Chisato is overhearing this, and she realizes this is the guy. This is the guy I've been looking for all these years. But then it turns out Mr. Yoshi is just like, yeah, but you should start killing people more. How about you do that instead? Chisato's just like, giving him this heartfelt speech like, oh, you taught me to save a life. And he's like, yeah, wrong message. You should just kill people.
But Mr. Yoshi, you taught me how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend.
Chisato not having a good time. She's having a bad time.
Oh, she's like finally found the person who made her the Allen child and like gave her the thing to like give her hope. That gave her the artificial heart that let her go on. It's like, oh, finally I can meet the person who helped to save my life. And he was like, ooh, yeah, about that. It wasn't exactly out of a place of altruism.
Yeah, that's awesome and all that, I gave you that artificial heart. And I'm glad that resonated with you. But if you could just, like, kill more people.
Kill some more?
Just get some people in the brain. Yeah, that would be... No, just get a few more people in the...
That'd be pog.
Just shove a rifle down their throat and fire like 5 times and then we'll be cool.
And Mika was actually meeting with him the whole time, trying to convince him to free Chisato from her, quote, mission, which is still up in the air, and I think we're going to find out what exactly it'll entail very soon.
So I guess she was... Okay, so she might have been given the mission by him then.
Yeah, like given the artificial heart and being like, all right, we'll give you this artificial heart that she probably needed to live through something, because why else would she need an artificial heart? She probably had like maybe a birth defect or something, or like a heart condition. So
maybe she just got... I mean, I get... Because the implication, at least as
are you
far
implying
as I
that she
can tell,
got shot through the heart and she's to blame and Taken has given love a bad name?
Yes, that is the exact implication, because I'm putting this together now, but her specific reason for being a pacifist is that she doesn't want to take away people's time, because she knows what it's like to worry about her time, not having that much time left on the earth. But she also used to be a ruthless killer, so she must have gotten shot through the heart and then realized what she was doing to all those people. It makes perfect sense.
I will say, if that is what ends up being the case, that'll be a great bit of characterization and character writing.
I mean, granted, I'm just putting this together, but it seems like that has to be it. It's what makes most sense.
It does make the most sense. And then the final bit in episode 7, we realize that Majima is also an Allen Institute child. For why? We don't know, but he is. So he and Chisato are more connected than we realize.
Was this after the ED?
I think so. Did you
skip
it?
I don't remember anything about this scene, so I imagine that is probably what happened.
Yeah, it's a scene of Majima holding the owl necklace that the Allen Institute children have.
All right.
So he is one of them. He is one of the Owl House kids.
They're gonna both go to the Owl House together to have their final confrontation. Side note, just really random detail that I like, which is the one person who goes to the Lycorico cafe who's working on her manga, and Chisato's just like, she's not gonna make her deadline. And then in the final scene of the episode, she's like struggling to make her deadline, and her editor's calling on the phone, and she's like, my phone isn't ringing. She's like asking,
there is no war in Bossing Say.
And she's like asking Takina like, should I kill the villain? And Takina's instantly like, yes. And then Chisato comes in and she's like, what? You killed the villain? How could you?
You
No.
shouldn't kill. It's very cute, very fun, very good script all around.
Although I know this is still completely random, but I am very concerned for that woman if she's still making such big plot decisions this close to the deadline. I feel like she might have needed to outline a little harder.
She's the most tragic character of them all.
Yeah, screw orphans. Imagine having your editor yell at you for your manga that you're only just now deciding if you should kill off the villain.
And with that, we've covered the first 7 episodes of Lycoris Recoil. What do we think?
I sounded very positive throughout this entire thing, I think, but I think I'm almost overselling how much I like the show, because there are like, to me, there are so many serotonin inducing moments that are just like this burst of greatness, all packed into like, a 10 or 20 second scene, or like this little bit of animation, like the fish moment, that is top, like 10 out of 10, absolute Kino, perfect scene. But then, I like Chisato. I think she's cool, and her name is fun to say, Chisato. But, it's a lot of just me. I think with Chisato acknowledging that she's a well-written character and liking all the serotonin-inducing moments, but really just waiting to connect with her in the same way I have with Takina. And it's not even necessarily that Takina is that much better written of a character than Chisato. What I've noticed with characters,
she just appeals to your aesthetic more.
Yeah, definitely a personal thing. I've noticed that a lot with characters. I really came to this realization actually during the Yofukashi no Uta cast, where I was trying to explain why I liked Akira so much. I made your mistake. Why I liked Akira so much. And, you were going like, oh, she's actually one of my less favorite characters. And I was like, why do I like Akira so much? And I realized sort of mid-recording like, oh, I just vibe with her. And I feel like I'm vibing with Takina. Chisato, maybe not as much.
Yeah, I'm definitely not over the moon for this show, but I'm definitely I'm excited to see where it goes next. Between this Call of the Night and Made in Abyss Season 2, Made in Abyss is still leaps and bounds ahead of both of these in terms of shows this season that I'm looking forward to watching. But as far as the ones we're covering on the podcast, I maintain that Lycoris Recoil, from my opinion from the summer seasonal cast, that this is one of the best shows this season.
I guess I could go ahead and throw my hat into the ring and say that I'm actually excited to watch Made in Abyss and Yofukashi no Uta at pretty similar levels, oddly enough. And then Lycoris Recoil, definitely a bit lower down there. And then Isekai Oji-san, I know that isn't a podcast show, but it is a seasonal, and I'm honestly just waiting until the entire thing airs because I don't want to have to deal with more of these hiatuses.
I would have suggested we could add, if Yuri Deco was more popular, I have no idea why it isn't, but if it were, I would have suggested it as a podcast show for how creative and fun it is, but we just straight up cannot fit anything more onto the plate right now.
Yeah, we're already putting off the Sangatsu and Owlcast duo until after October. So just puts into perspective just how stacked we are.
And we're not getting back to Bleach until Halloween.
Oh yeah, that's literally on Halloween. Oh, that's gonna be like a fun Halloween. Okay.
I mean, when we record it, it's gonna be on Halloween. When it comes out, it's gonna be like a week after.
Yeah, a week and a half after Halloween. Belated Halloween special.
Yeah, I did. The thought of a Castaway anime Halloween special did cross my mind, but we sadly cannot fit it into the schedule.
We're already
we'll
struggling
bring it
as
back around for
is.
Christmas though. We'll watch a Christmas anime or something.
Is there an entire Christmas anime? Because for me, every Christmas I just watch the Gabriel Dropout Christmas special.
Tokyo Godfathers. We can go full Canton ripoff and do an episode on Tokyo Godfathers.
I've definitely heard the title before, but I don't remember
It's a
what it
Satoshi
is.
Kon movie.
That's like a Christmas thing?
You know who Satoshi Kon
Well, I know
is.
I know who Satoshi Kon is. And I know it's probably not going to be a cheery Christmas movie given who is directing it. But
Actually, I mean, no spoilers, but it is, despite what happens in it and what it's about, it is one of the most uplifting, feel-good Christmas movies I've ever seen.
okay, that does make me quite hopeful. So,
Which is surprising, given, like you said, the guy who made it, where it comes from.
now just waiting for when it's revealed that actually the most wholesome, happy Christmas manga was written by Junji Ito.
When I think that Junji Ito anime is supposed to come out next season, the one on Adult Swim.
I'm trying to remember. I vaguely remember hearing about it, but I don't actually remember what it's called.
I think it's called Uzumaki.
Oh yeah, Uzumaki.
Yeah, been looking forward to that one for a while because we don't get enough good horror anime. We just get like shit like another Yami Shibai.
Or even worse, the dreadful Mirai Nikki.
Is that even a horror show?
I guess I think it's considered one. Like that's part of its genre,
I do not
but it doesn't
consider
feel
just
like
random
one.
acts of violence and gore just to be horror.
I mean, it's bad horror. If you want to read it as horror, it is very bad horror.
I'm more into the psychological than the oh no, these characters are dying. The horror.
The horror, random cute girl gets decapitated.
Yeah, you know what the scariest thing of all would be though? If we get to
What?
the end of Lycoris Recoil and Chisato and Takina don't kiss.
That would be a good
That-
Halloween
I would-
special right there. That would be terrifying.
I would like scream my lungs out and wake up in a cold sweat every night for the next few weeks.
One last thing on Lycoris Recoil, which is that normally I have a number once I'm like halfway through a season where it's like, oh, I'd give Yofukashi no Uta like a strong 7 to light 8 right now or something like that. Made in Abyss I didn't have a number for, but the point is I'm generally decided on a number fairly early on. I genuinely don't know what I would rate Lycoris Recoil, and it is going to severely hinge on how it wraps up all of its loose ends.
I think I'm leaning in the 7 and the 8 direction, leaning more so towards an 8 than a 7.
I'm definitely not as far as an 8. I would give it a 7 at the highest, and probably a low one at that.
It's if it wants to reach the heights of a 9, then it's gonna like the second half's gonna have to put in some work.
To me, if
the
it were to
animation's
become a 9,
The action animation's been slipping a little bit. Like I said earlier in the podcast, it peaked in episode 2. The story stuff's got to get like super duper exciting. Like you said, we've been stirring the pot this half, but now the pot's got to bubble and boil over in the second half.
If it's to be a 9, in my opinion, then that pot ain't just gonna have to like start boiling over. It's gonna have to like have fireworks going off, pasta sauce going everywhere, spilling into the kitchen. 10 out of 10 pure shenanigans.
I thought you were gonna say, if in order for me to give Lycoris Recoil a 9 out of 10, Chisato and Takina can't just kiss; they gotta fuck.
Okay, I would give it a 9 out of 10 if they did. In fairness,
I'd give it an 11. I would respect the bravery.
If episode 12 ends with them in bed together, I will give it a 9 out of 10. 13 ends with them getting in bed together. I will give it a 9 out of 10. Even if I hate everything else about it, I will still give it a 9 out of 10.
Well, you heard it, Shingo Adachi. Make it happen. A1 Pictures.
Here are cries.
Here are meet are the demands of the most popular anime podcast in the world. You don't have to look into the credentials behind that one. Just trust me, bro.
We had the queen as our top donator. Come on. Of course, we're the most
pour one out.
Yeah, pour one out for our top.
She'll never get to
donator,
know how the
Venus
Owl
Elizabeth
House cast
II.
ends. She'll never get to know if my opinion on March Comes In Like a Lion will improve or not.
That's the real tragedy behind the queen's death, honestly.
Well, if you want to support us in lieu of the queen's passing, go ahead and like the video. Let us know what you think of the show and Lycoris Recoil down in the comments, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. We've got more stuff coming on the way. Once we've covered Maiden Abyss and Yofukashi no Uta, I think we've got the and of course Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I think is the next episode. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, it's the next episode after this.
Yeah, we're gonna be covering Cyberpunk Edge Runners. That looks like a lot of fun. And then once we're done covering those shows and Lycoris Recoil, we're gonna move on to the big old shebang next month, the fall seasonal cast. Get excited. You're not excited!
I'm very excited now!
There we go. That's the kind of energy we need to bring to the podcast. That's how we bring in the subscribers.
I'm gonna become like a kids gaming channel. Just go like, what's up, guys? It's Crunchy Bagels and Neon Manta back here!
Maybe that's what we gotta do to draw on the stupid fucking babies. We gotta be loud.
Biggest anime channel like that.
Damn, I don't have any keys on me. I was gonna jingle a bunch of keys into the microphone.
Here, hold on, wait. Hold on, for like 10 seconds.
Hang on, guys. This is a peak humor. We're about to pull in all of the child subscribers.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, there it is. There we go. Are you appeased, children?
Oh, we
right.
just got
We've
10 times
we've
more
definitely hit it.
5-year-olds.
Yeah, we definitely just crossed 1,000 subs by now.
Oh, we're gonna become the best paid YouTubers on this planet.
With that'll wrap up another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And you'll see us next time.
Bye-bye.